talking about what makes you successful in life, relationships, and business. It's Jump, Pivot, and Roll with Shannon Stiles and Rachel Murphy.
Good morning and welcome to Jump, Pivot, and Roll. I'm Shannon Stiles.
And I'm Rachel Murphy.
And with us today, I'm so honored to have this gentleman with us. It is my loving husband, Scott Stiles.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing this morning? How are you two lovely ladies doing this morning? I love what you guys have done with your podcast. It seems like it's growing week in, week out, and congratulations to both of you.
Thank you, Scott, very much.
Thanks. You know what? It's been awesome. We're a little bit humbled by all of the great feedback that we've gotten.
And here's what I've told you both from the start. It doesn't matter the views. It doesn't matter with your comments. What matters is if you touch one person.
That's right.
Then you made a difference. And that's all that matters, especially in today's society and world. It truly means a lot. If you just reach out one person a day, you've made a difference.
I agree. And thank you, Scott, very much.
So we're just wrapping up some episodes on fear. And in addition to that, we're going into the next series, which we're going to talk about feeling guilty and guilt. And I thought that you would be the perfect guest to come on because you've really dealt with a lot of this, especially since when I started my personal development, my personal growth journey.
Hated it.
Yeah. I mean, you were not on board.
I despised you.
And why is that?
It was because I felt like part of me was losing you. Mm-hmm. And I felt like we were in a really good, I felt like I wasn't enough. I felt like you were looking for more. And I think a lot of people would feel that way because I felt like, we just bought the agency. We had a successful business going. I was successful, had a great radio show. And, I thought, why isn't it enough? And I had to really fall on my ass and hit rock bottom. I stepped out on you. I created a lot of havoc for a lot of people that were close to me. And it was fear. It was fear. I was scared. And I was basically just a very selfish individual that didn't look at the whole picture and didn't realize I need to support you in that capacity. I looked at the opposite side and felt like I was losing everything that I finally had, that I always wanted, and that's no way to rationalize anything of my actions, right. But that's what I felt.
And I appreciate you being candid with us and being honest about all of this, because I know a lot of the listeners that are just starting this journey of personal development and really going for their dreams and getting rid of all those thoughts in their minds that they're not good enough or it's a stupid dream or whatever that is. I know that they're going to face this as well with their friends.
Friends, family. I mean,
yeah.
I think it's, when you step out into that personal development, there's usually a driving factor. I mean, there's a reason that you want to grow. But in growth, there's always pain. And it can make it even worse when the very people you love and feel like should be your biggest cheerleaders are not supporting. But Scott, I so appreciate you being so honest about your why, because I think that's something that as we're on that journey that maybe we don't see. It's like, why can't you support me? Why don't you believe in my dreams? Why don't you think that I'm better and that I can do better? And I don't think you felt that way about Shannon at all. You were just scared.
I was totally scared. And, and also I didn't realize all her life she's been doubted. And that just put another dagger in her heart, because here, the one man she's relying on, she couldn't rely on her father because of his past drug addiction and his ways. She couldn't count on a lot of individuals that were close to her. And the one man she thought she could count on shunned her. And it was a bad situation for her. And through this whole process, to this day, I still carry, and it's a factor that we haven't talked about, but it's regret. I think regret correlates into all of this fear of what we're talking about. regret of what I've done, who I've hurt. I mean, I've made my father cry. I've made my mother cry. I've made my wife cry. I've made my son cry. About lost my granddaughter. I mean, and my new grandson, my daughter-in-law. I mean, there's a lot of people that I have affected through my actions and I'll carry that regret to my grave. Now, I think I'm slowly making amends with everything, but there's still a long way for me to go. I'm still growing myself. There was 2 years ago, I didn't care about who I hurt or who I stepped on because it was about me and my successes. And I wanted people to say, oh, you're great. Oh, you're funny. Oh, you're talented. Oh, you're great looking. Oh, this and that. And I could give two damns about that anymore today. I care about when I wake up in the morning that I do the right thing. I care about the people that I've totally cut out 3/4 of the people in my life. I have a tight circle of friends that I will confide in, or that in like social media. I've cut way back on social media. I don't post every little thing I do. I don't care. It's about my family and about my faith, and that's what it comes down to me these days.
So, can I ask you a really hard question?
Sure.
Do you love you now?
I'm getting there. No, there's still no. I
know
like
you want to beat yourself up. But
I like me a lot better.
Okay.
I don't love me yet because I still have growing to do.
Okay, but we all do, Scott. And if we all talk about, I have regrets. Heck, I was ready to not necessarily pull the plug on the podcast, but I was ready to take some steps back. And I really let down. Thank you.
I wasn't.
I let down my co-host. And I sat here listening to her, and the regret and the shame that hit me. Now, she's forgiven me, and it's good. But the thing is, we all have regrets, and that's part of personal growth. And I think our listeners how do you not have regret in this life?
Well, the thing is that I've seen it's easy to hurt people. It's so hard to realize. For me, that was the hardest thing, to admit I was wrong. Mm-hmm. And to admit that to look in the mirror and not. I would look in the mirror after I hurt somebody and think, you know what, you're still cool. You're still a good guy. You're going, and I was fooling myself. You still look good. I was fooling myself because deep down I was an angry person. Yeah. I was a jealous person. I was a spiteful person. And I couldn't see it at the time. I truly could. I literally had to have my wife throw my things out in the yard, and one of these, and then I realized what I had. She'd send me a picture when I was gone. She'd send me a picture in church on Sundays with an empty seat saying, "I'm still here waiting for you." That's unconditional love.
Yes.
That don't happen every day.
No.
And my regrets drive me today. That's what drives me today is my regrets, because I think about where I was and where I'm going and where I want to be, and my regrets drive. It's not. I have goals, but my regrets are my goals too. So when my grandson grows up, at my funeral he can say that was a damn good man. Or my granddaughter, who now wants to talk to me too on the phone.
I heard that.
There's a lot of steps that have taken place to get to that point. And the message to all your listeners today is reflect every day. Reflect of where you're at, where you want to be, and go for that day. And if you don't make it, just reflection is so powerful in a person's mindset. It truly is.
It is, but so is forgiveness. And so I hope as you're going through this regret, because that can also be a really heavy weight on us, that you are forgiving yourself and that you are giving yourself credit for where you are coming to.
I think we have to remember that, so many times we look at the spectrum from where we're at, right? We look at the big picture and we see, okay, well, we had to forgive ourselves in order to be where we're at. So we try to push people to take all of these steps at one time, but he's in the beginning of this process, right?
Yeah, but he's still got to forgive himself, Shannon.
That will come. It's a step that will come. he had to recognize. I mean, it's just like an alcoholic. You've got to recognize that there's a problem first and come out of denial. You take step 2, which is blah blah blah, and then you take those steps, right?
I mean, you're talking to a guy that made a therapist quit. I mean, I put a therapist out of. I mean, he's like, you scare me. He goes,
you're so angry.
He goes, you're so angry. He goes, and he quit like a month later. I mean, that's where I was in my life, and also a thing that's really was hard for me to be was transparent.
That's hard for everybody.
Transparency is so difficult, and it's so refreshing now because I don't have any secrets. I don't hide anything. Yeah, and I know
he's kind of forced into that because of me.
I know my wife. Well, here another example. The other night, somebody asked me about my radio show. I just said I was driving. I said I quit. He's a friend of mine. Dad was my teammate. I was telling her about it, and she literally got pissed. So I literally picked up the phone, and I called him, and I explained the whole situation to him. And he goes, "Wow." He goes, and I mean, he was, very supportive.
Right.
But my point was, she didn't want, and she was right. I didn't want to admit at the time because I'd had, but I just said I quit, and I thought that would be the end of it. And it truly, he needed to hear the story because he was a teammate of mine in college and everything else. But I think what still hurts me a little bit, and I'm being transparent,
please,
is that she still has doubts. Like the other day, she's like, "Honey, are we doing anything July 9th through July 12th? Don't think so. She goes, I want to fly to Louisiana to help my ex-sister-in-law do some things to their house, blah, blah, blah. I said, no problem. Have fun. Let's get you a plane ticket. Let's get you going. Airfare's cheap right now. And it set her back. She's like, really? I'm like, yeah, Shan. If I had a problem with it, I would say, honey, can we just discuss this when we get home? This was over the phone.
Now, historically, what would the conversation have been? I mean, this is going to show how much growth he's had, right?
I would have lost it. I would have lost it, and I would say,
no way.
You were a witness to that when you guys wanted to go on your cruise in January.
Yeah.
I was pissed because Shannon and I had talked about, and this is frivolous stuff, I know, but she'd never been on a cruise. I've been on 2 cruises. I said, listen, and then 2 days later, you guys were on a cruise. I was like, what about me? I was pissed. I shot the worst round of golf on the back 9, and I was literally pissed. I was, because I was hurt. And when I get hurt, when a lot of people get hurt, they put up their walls, and I said for a long time, if you looked up turd ball in the dictionary, you would see my face.
I think that's a little harsh to yourself, Scott.
So I have a question for you, because I can attest to everything you've said is true. And I just love the man that you've become. It's that strong, secure, wonderful, amazing man that I've always dreamt of having in my life. And how did you make the shift? What caused you to shift?
Well, I put God first in my life again, for one. That helped a lot. And also, I go back to reflection, Shan and Rach. I just reflect. I look back, and I was embarrassed because those people would be there to my face and support me, but behind me they were talking like, "What an idiot this guy is," and it wasn't a secret. Everybody knew.
It wasn't.
Well, the only person that didn't know was you.
I was the only one that was like, "Oh, they don't. They still think I'm.
Yeah.
But they did. And I could notice a difference. I know. I mean, people were like, "Hey, I haven't heard from you." People were reaching out to me now when I would force, like, "Hey, do you care if I come over?" or this and that. I wasn't invited.
Right.
It was almost, and that was the deal. And
well, you were needing. It sounds to me like, and I think a lot of us go through this. I think our listeners go through this. I think we all go through this stage. But it sounds like you were needing to be recognized. You didn't have that within yourself, that you were important enough, so you needed outside validation.
You just nailed it. It was value, right?
Well,
talk about
I
not
want to feel wanted
yourself.
and needed.
But you were.
Well, but I didn't see that because I came from a family that I had to be the best. I had to be the best at everything. Because I had to live through my father's eyes. My father started running my grandfather's company when he was 16 years old, basically. And he had to quit sports and everything because his mom had a stroke. So my father lived through me, they built a house at the end zone of the football stadium. It seats 10,000. You know, we've all seen pictures, been there. But I had to be that perfect guy. On Saturdays, my work ethic, I'd be beat up, and I'd have to mow 2 ladies in our neighborhood. Their husbands passed away. I had to mow their lawns for free. I had to then go to the offices, clean the offices at my dad's place of business. And I never was allowed to have a job. I had a car provided for me. Never allowed to have a car in high school, but I had to perform at a certain level and have the certain amount of grades and all that stuff. All right. So when I got away from that, I missed the competitiveness. I missed the need, because, you know, people in that community, small town, always, oh, you were the quarterback. Oh, this, blah, blah, blah. I had the prettiest girl. I had this and that, blah, blah, everything. You know?
still have the prettiest
I agree. I totally agree.
Thank
but I'm saying, my point is there was a lot of stuff handed to me because of who I was.
Right.
Yeah.
And that related over, and look, I went through job after job for a period of time because I felt like I was either getting mistreated or I deserved more, blah, blah, blah. I didn't work for it. And it affected me. It truly did.
Yeah.
And I went through a marriage like that. You know, I did. I wasn't a good dad. I was a terrible dad at times. Terrible dad. But when I got back into coaching and everything else, I thrived at that. But yeah, I was a terrible family man. But I could recruit my ass off. I could sell an Eskimo ice.
You could sell anything.
Yeah, I could.
Yeah.
And that was my downfall, because everybody in the boosters and all the school faculty, oh, he's the best thing we ever had, blah, blah, blah. You know, so I'm riding that, right? I mean, it was just a whirlwind of ups and downs, and I'd ride the ups and I'd shun the downs and think they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And I always thought I was better than what I was. And I was really inside, I was a terrible individual that treated people like crap, took advantage of people a lot of times. And I correlate that over into my family life and my marriage and everything else.
Who knew this was going to be a therapy session?
So how afraid were you to make that shift?
I wasn't afraid. I was because I had no other options. I was about ready to lose everything. I was about ready to lose a house that we redid together, 3 boys, 2 grandchildren. My mom looked me in the eyes, crying in the driveway, saying, "If you lose her, I'm done with you."
Holy.
Yeah.
On Christmas Day.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was rock bottom for me. And that was just 6, 7 months ago.
Yeah.
And look, that's why I said I'm not even close to where I want to be. I mean, it's not that I have bad thoughts again. That's not it at all. It's just that my reflection and my regrets push me every day, because I look at yesterday and I think, you know what, I had a really good day, but I can still make today better. I have a full day today after I leave this deal here today. I have a full day, but we're serving early, and then I'm going to do my thing that I love to do and announce some races. And then I'm coming home to my lovely family tonight. I'm not going out drinking. I'm not going out chasing. I'm coming home. And that's my line from start to finish of the day. And that's my day now. Before, it would be, oh, she's going to be here for another hour. Let's see where I can go real quick, blah, blah, blah. Or what can I do? And that's not me anymore. My mind doesn't even go there anymore.
Well, you know, I think it's important, Scott, that you realize that you can have setbacks, because we all have setbacks in our mind. But the difference is your choices don't lead you back to that
The
path.
choices, at one point, the choices were defining me.
Right.
Okay.
Now you're defining
Now
them.
I'm defining the choices.
That's right.
If that makes sense.
That makes 100% sense.
So I believe in the saying, the truth will set you free. And I think that is very true when it comes to guilt. Because, I mean, you don't still feel guilty about everything in the past that happened with us, do you?
Well, of course I do.
Yes, he does. That's why I was saying it's very
But
important
Shannon,
that
every
he
day,
forgives
every day,
himself.
I visualize
agree.
certain things that happen between you and I, and that regret drives me to be just
So I think
Every day.
it's really important,
because I need
right
that.
now.
I do need that. I mean, I've talked to Mike about this several times.
Mike is
my
our counselor.
Yeah.
Counselor,
But
by
I've
the
talked to
way.
Mike about this several times. Is that, you know, everybody needs a motivation. Everybody needs something to make them you know, and I've really put this as my level. It's not, I still have goals, believe me. I still have things I want to do and accomplish in my life before I leave this earth, which, you know, every day I'm thankful I get to wake up and do it again. But my point is that my goals I set to drive me, but my regrets push me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
My regrets push me to be better. My regrets and doubters push me to reach higher than what I did yesterday.
They push you to obtain your legacy and to create
That's
your legacy.
You know,
exactly
and
what I was
that's another thing I
thinking.
want to talk about. Legacy is great to have, but my legacy is not important to me right now. I could give two damns about my legacy.
I disagree. You
Yeah.
could give
No,
two damns about
no.
your ego.
Yeah.
Your legacy that
No,
your
I would agree.
My
grandchildren.
legacy will be defined in the next 10 to 15 years of what I do and how I am consistently.
But that's what's driving
the
you.
legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your legacy. Your legacy, Scott, is that when
That's
you
what
are
we
in the
need.
ground, your grandchildren stand there and say, "That was a good man. My
Well,
grandfather was a good
but
man."
that's-
My wife says, "I loved that man. That man loved you." That's your legacy.
I understand that. That's
not your ego.
The ego used to think legacy was,
Yes.
oh, all these sports
See
people
me,
are going to,
see
yes.
me, see me.
But your legacy has become
Who you
want to be
are.
a good man.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
My point is, though, is I still have a lot of legacy left to build.
We
That's my
all
point.
do.
Yeah.
We
That's
all
my point.
do.
My legacy is not developed yet.
Well, what the story you want to leave behind isn't done. It started. But Scott, if something were to happen to you tomorrow and Shannon were just
Oh, there'd be
stand-
people show up. See,
Well, no,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
no.
thank God.
No, no.
I'm just joking.
My point is, Shannon would end her life with you, knowing that you were becoming the man she always saw
Mm-hmm.
in you.
Yeah.
That is still going to be your legacy
And-
if something happened tomorrow. Now, it doesn't mean you can't improve upon it and leave a bigger story.
Now we're going to have to take a break right here. We have to hear a word from our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to dive in more about guilt and how it holds you back. And we're going to talk a little bit about legacies also. You're listening to Jump, Pivot, and Roll. We'll be back in just a moment.
The Jump, Pivot, and Roll podcast is brought to you in part by the Shannon Stiles Allstate Insurance Agency. Just as you take that next step in life, you need to take that next step in protecting yourself, your car, your home, and your family. Reach out to Shannon at 316-773-9864 or shoot her an email at sstiles@allstate.com. Also by Simplify My Life ICT. Is your life cluttered? Do you need help with organization? Rachel Murphy can help. Check out Rachel's services online at simplifymylifeict.com or reach out to Rachel at simplifymylifeict@gmail.com. To keep up with the Jump, Pivot, and Roll podcast, make sure to follow them on their Facebook page. Just go to facebook.com/Jump, Pivot, and Roll. There you can find content, podcasts of the show, discussions with Rachel and Shannon, and more. Plus, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite podcasting sites, from iTunes and Spotify, Google Play to TuneIn, and right on their Podbean site at jumppivotandroll.podbean.com. And for all the exclusive content, make sure to become a VIP member on their Patreon site. Just go to patreon.com/Jump, Pivot, and Roll.
And welcome back to Jump, Pivot, and Roll. You're here with Shannon Stiles, Rachel Murphy, and Scott Stiles.
And we're going to take a quick break just to thank one of our listeners and share this review. She says, "I'm enjoying listening to the conversation between Shannon and Rachel. They're real, down to earth, relatable, and inspiring. Thank you so much for that review. We just want you to know we really appreciate you and all of our listeners."
And we'd appreciate all of the listeners to make reviews also.
Absolutely.
So we're talking to my husband today, which I don't know if you'll agree, but at one point used to be a narcissist. And that's a scary word. However, I can say that now because he has made that shift. And it's been an amazing journey to watch this. And it wasn't that long ago. But I do want to talk about the fear of seeing your own value, because there used to be a time that you would work 24/7 for very, very small amount of money. And it used to really upset me. How scary was that to just know what you're worth and stand up for yourself?
Well, I would, I didn't see, I was doing what I wanted to do. So it didn't, there were some things I would have done probably for free. And, and then once I was away from home a lot doing this, and Shannon's like, you realize how much time you're committing to them, but you're not committing to us. And as a family, as a married, and that time, which I didn't see at the time, was more valuable than anything because we were newly married. We were trying to grow, and I didn't see it. And, I went back to those people later on. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore for this. And they're like, oh, what do you need? I'm like, wow, this works.
It does.
Wow. And then when I switched jobs, I had a company offer me 3 times of what I was making, if not more.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do it. I was scared. I was hesitant. And she was like, are you kidding me? This could make a world of difference for you, and it's going to allow you to grow. And it was an industry I was in 10 years ago, and I wasn't, things had changed. And so I was like, man, I'm a little scared to jump back into this deal again. And I prayed about it. And finally I was like, I'm going to, and the job I did have, I had to let them know I was stepping down, which I worked for friends. And so that kind of upset them a little bit. And I was back in the position where I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and would be perfect to everybody, instead of looking out for me or looking out for my family, what mattered. I didn't. I put all that aside because this other job, I could leave at noon. I was playing golf every day at 1:00. And,
it also fed your ego, did it?
Oh,
not?
it did. Totally did. Yeah. And we were traveling a lot, and all that stuff. And when I made the decision, I was angry with Shannon for a while. I took it out on Shannon because I was like, this isn't really my comfort zone. That was my comfort zone. I'm actually going to, and now we joke about because it's my big boy job.
Right, right. I remember her saying that. He's got a big boy job, and I thought, oh, that's harsh.
Yeah, but we still joke about
true.
it today because when the thing happened with the radio show, everybody thought that was my main job, and everybody's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I got a big boy job, and they're like, big boy job, but that was our term we used.
Which, for the listeners, what happened on the radio show was Scott stated his opinion, which was based on facts.
It was.
Someone didn't like that opinion, and they held it over the station's head, and they kind of forced their hand to let him go.
Suspended me from the show.
Yeah. But that was a hobby. That's something that you loved to do.
I've done it for either in TV or radio for 20 years.
So looking back, even though you were very upset with me when I was very angry, kind of pushed you into seeing your own value and your worth. Looking back, would you do it different if you could?
Absolutely.
How would you do it different?
I would have. First of all, not done so many events to make it like, look at the money I have now. If I do 20 of it now, I do 2 events and make twice as much as doing 20. And, I look back now, I'm like, what an idiot. I was going 7 days a week, 15, 16 hours a day, and I'd bring this wad of cash and say, here you go. Look, what do you think of me now? And now I do 2. And I'm like,
and there's no more, what do you think of me now? Now it's, let's go do something fun, right?
Yeah.
It changes
and that was
everything.
another thing. I would hide it. I would store it, here and there so I could go do my thing. And now, when I was doing that, I just, here you go, Shan, and.
Now, Shannon gets an allowance.
Yeah. But no,
and boy, does she spend it.
But it's just,
I do.
It was totally, and I credit Shannon a lot, and and you as well. I've leaned on you in the past over that. I appreciate that as well. When we were having issues, and I will say this: fear, being scared, of losing something you really cherish, is a tough thing. It is a tough thing. Whether somebody's dying. And that's basically what, back then, I felt like I was dying inside because I was losing. I was scared to have to start over again. I was scared that she was going to find somebody better than what she had by doing these things. And I'm just being real. And a lot of people in my shoes today do the same thing.
Yeah,
They truly do. They don't know how to handle that. Instead of rising up and being the best person you can be and being there for the ride and the journey, they shun that person and they ridicule that person and they paint that person in the spot. They paint that person bad to their friends, like, oh, you won't believe what she's doing. When all in all, it's you that you got to fix.
Yeah.
It's not the person.
It's funny because you say that you were afraid that I would meet a better man, right? And your fear came true. If you think about it, I did meet a better man. You became a better man. My standards raised, and you rise to the occasion. I found within myself, and it's a part of my growth, right? I allowed myself to be in a position where I wasn't treated properly. But when I started with the personal development and with wanting more for my life, I had to raise the standards. And I remember us having a conversation once, and I said, honey, we might not always have the same friends because we will outgrow them, because we don't want to be around the drama. We don't want to be, it distracts you from becoming that person that you want to become. And I applaud you for stepping up and becoming that man. So sometimes your fears can turn out better for you.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that we have to look at, because fear can own us. And Scott, fear owned you.
Yeah.
It owned you.
Isn't it like the little boy going off the high dive for the first time?
Yeah.
His fear of shuffling and looking back, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a good analogy or not.
Oh, sure it is.
But I'll never forget that.
Yeah, because you wanted everybody to see you on the high dive.
Yeah, like
you
look at
were
me, look
on
at me.
it, right?
And then now all eyes are on you and think, oh crap.
Now I have to jump.
Now I have to jump.
Right.
Yeah.
What if I splat? What if I get a belly burn? What if I
Or what if I have to
drown?
come back down the ladder and can't do it?
Right.
You're going to be ridiculed.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
that's
not
a
just
great
a little
analogy.
boy thing. That's a girl thing too, because
Yeah.
I've been on that high dive, So,
So how do you guys handle your fears?
well, I have learned a lot. And Scott, like you, I haven't made some of the same life choices that you have, but I have regrets and I've done things wrong. And I've let people down, and I've hurt people I love dearly, and I've been hurt. But what I learned how to do is look at my fear as my opportunity for growth. Because, in this stage of my life, I am all about becoming the best person that I can be. I'm not about doing. I'm not about being seen. I don't care who sees me anymore. You see me, you like me? Great. I'm so glad you're here. You don't? I don't care, because you aren't who I'm doing things for. I'm who I'm doing things for. And I don't mean that in a selfish way. I mean that in, I want to leave every space and every person that I come into contact with better than I found it. That is who I want to become. That is who I want to be. So when I am faced with a situation that scares the bejeebus out of me, and perfection is a struggle for me like ego was for you. Perfection stops me. What if I don't do it perfect? What if nobody shows up? That's ego. But it's still one of those things I struggle with. And now I look at it, what if I don't do it?
Yeah.
What if I don't accomplish it? So I look at fear as, okay, this is going to be painful. I might belly flop, but I also might have the greatest moment flying from the board to the water. And for that moment, I just get to feel free. And that's enough. And it's not always easy. Believe me, it's not always easy, especially if I feel like I might let somebody else down. But fear means something great is about to happen.
So I'm a little bit different. I have fear all the time, and I embrace it, and I let it go. I turn it over to God, and I live by the saying, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I know this. I've also learned that everything in life happens for you, not to you. Therefore, even if I go into something and I fail, it's okay because I know there's a lesson in it that I had to learn.
Absolutely.
And that makes it okay. A lot of times, I think the hardest thing for me is fear of losing people. And I really had to overcome that, especially when it comes to family, because I love my family so much. But
You're such a family person.
I am. And I love my family, and I want everything to be okay.
Even when you've been shunned, you've been there to help them when need for moving or a sickness or just anything. I'll give you credit for that.
And that's how I face it. I you know what? It is what it is when it's not good. And when there's an opportunity, I show up and I be myself.
That's it.
And that's how I face fear.
You don't let the other people affect who you are. You're still true to who you are.
And that was not true for a long time, But I do have to point out that I've gotten to a point in my life where I like who I am. I love who I am.
I love who I am.
And I'm not afraid anymore because I have learned that, if somebody doesn't like something that I do, they're just not my people. They're not supposed to be in my life at that point in time. And that's okay. I don't care. They can have their opinion about me. And quite honestly, their opinion doesn't matter because it's none of my business what their opinion is.
I knew I was not being home enough when I was out front one day, and I went back inside. I said, "When the neighbors get a dog?" And Shannon goes, 8 months ago.
Oh goodness, God!
That was a sign for me. Like I need to be home more. And
only 8 months, honey.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm joking a little bit there, but it was kind of true.
Well, yeah.
So, Scott, if you could give advice to someone who's listening now, who might be, they might be exactly where you are. They might be where you were. Sorry, they might be somewhat of a narcissist, or they might be living that lie, thinking that not seeing the truth. Right? What advice would you give them about facing themselves? Because it's very scary to face yourself.
Well, fears, regret, you go through self-pity. I haven't even talked about that. There's a lot of things that are inside you every day that you fight. There's so many demons inside when you are in that position. You truly are. And you're almost like deflecting on a daily basis. And quite frankly, it wears you out.
I'm sure you're exhausted.
It wears you out to where at night your mind is spinning like, what's tomorrow going to bring? You're scared to get up. You're scared for the next day to start another day of the same patterns and everything else. You truly are. My thing is this, is either you shut it down for 3 days and you do a lot of self-reflection. You reach out to somebody in the professional industry that can that will not judge you, but you can get you got to cleanse, if that makes sense. You truly have to cleanse and get everything out. And you're going to cry, you're going to scream, you're going to cuss, you're going to want to punch somebody, and then you're going to need a hug. You're going to go through the just the gauntlet of emotions, and it's going to be tough. It truly is. And some people will not. They'll go back in their old patterns. Eventually they will, because that's just who they're designed to be. I was one of those guys. I was a pattern guy. You could always know I was a pattern guy, and you have to break those patterns. You truly do. But it all falls back on you. You have to initiate that. Until you do, all the people in the world can talk to you, and unless you have your mindset and you find out what's really important to you in life, you're not going to do it. You truly aren't. But there's going to come a day that you're going to wake up and you're going to be tired of living the way you do. You truly are. It just will wear you out. and then the doubt of what people believe that who you truly are. If you're any kind of human being at all, you care about what people think. I don't care. It's humanistic.
Yeah.
It's one of the traits of every human has. People can say, I don't care what people. You do. You do care what people think. I care what people think. I say I don't care, but I do care because I want people to think, you know what, this is a guy that I can trust. That's what I want now.
Right.
Before, I didn't want to be. I wanted just to be liked, but now I want to be the guy that they can trust, and that's totally different for me.
I'm sorry, I'm getting teary, Scott. I'm so proud of you.
Well,
I
thank
just
you.
want to tell you that it's wonderful to see the guy that I knew existed
Yeah.
is actually sitting before me.
Well, it's still a work in progress.
We're all a work in progress.
Yeah, but we are every day. But here's the thing, is that you have to know what's important, especially at our age. I mean, I'm 54 years old.
Oh, you're old.
I am old. And but here's the thing. I feel better now than I have in the last 20 years of my life.
Yeah.
I truly do. It's not about all the appearance and everything anymore. It's about my soul and my heart. And as long as I take care of that and what my beliefs have changed so much, and I stay on that track of my beliefs, and I've surrounded myself with great people around me now that have my back as well, that they will be, I told them, if you pull my ass back in line.
Oh, I
or
will.
you shut it down. No,
if I see something, I will pull you out so fast.
I truly, and I have those people now where I didn't have those. I had the enablers before.
Well, you had them. You weren't listening to them.
I did. You're right, but I listened to the enablers.
Yeah.
Because they gave you what you needed.
Well, that or they were with me.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
And so, but I appreciate both of you for allowing me a platform to talk about it today. And I go back to saying I respect both of you because both have been a big part of my life.
Thank you.
And Shannon, once again, I love you dearly for everything you are and how you've helped me get through everything.
I love you too.
Okay.
I'm very proud of you. And you know what? This is probably one of those episodes that if you know a narcissist in your life and you really love them and care for them and want a different life for them, tag them in this. Share this with them because I'll tell you what, it's peace. When you face this and when you make the shift that Scott's made, there is peace.
And I do want to point out this because I think it's really important. I think a lot of us who are into personal growth as women, because I think a lot of our listeners are women, is that we pick narcissists because of something. I'm married to a narcissist. I went through the same thing with Dawn for years. But the turning point, I think, for us was when I said, you know what? I'm going to love you in spite of this because I know there's something better. And all of a sudden, when he knew that I was going to love him through it, he started to change. And I feel like that's what happened with you as well, Scott, that's when you were finally able to face those fears.
I faced that, and on top of picking my boxer shorts up in the grass. That helps.
Well, that probably helps wake you up as well. Yeah, I would think.
I just wanted to be light at the end here.
So life doesn't always come with directions. Sometimes you have to jump, pivot, and roll. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe, share it, and leave us your thoughts. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.